Hello everyone, this is Gizmy. I got a 2,500 point battle report, my Dark Elves versus Vampire counts. Now, I didn't own a single Dark Elf model before the new book kicked off, and when the new book came out, I decided to pick them up and give them a try. The list I'm playing with here is the original list I wrote for them, and I bought all the models for this list, and I saw it to completion. So, although it's not what I would do now, having read the book over a few more times and seen some other reports and all that. However, this is what I bought, this is what I got, and this is what I'm gonna play through. So here we go. So facing off against some vampire counts here, and starting on my opponent's right, he has 30 or so skeletons and a full command. To the left of that, there's 40 ghouls with a gas. Behind that is 5 hex wraiths. To the left of that, there's 30 grave guard with great weapons that are rocking the banner of the Barrows. In that unit on the far right is a vampire lord with rocking the sword of battle, heavy armor, night shroud, quick blood, and red fury. So although he's not strength 6, it doesn't really matter too much against the elves here since they're only toughness 3. He'll be wounding on 2s. And I don't have much as far as armor, so red fury and quick blood with strength 5 will be pretty devastating as is. And also in that unit there is a white king with an enchanted shield, sword of might, and a dawn stone. He's on the far left corner. Behind that unit there is 20 zombies, and in there is a level 4 necromancer. He's rocking the Dispel Scroll, Talisman of Endurance. For spells he rolled up Curse of the Years, Invocation of Nehek, Dance Magic Dance, and Raise Dead. So a nice complement to spells there to buff up some of his undead, get some rerolls, raise some troubleshooting units, and all that good stuff. And Curse of the Years is good from withering down units, so his paltry skeletons or ghouls can do some actual damage in combat. To the left of those units, there is a Terrorgeist, always formidable. And to the left of that unit, there is 5 Conwraiths in a unit there. So that's some ethereal goodness going on. I don't have too many answers to that with my list, but I do have a few. So starting off on my far left, I have a bolt thrower. To the right of that, there is 5 Doomed Fire Warlocks. Behind the Warlocks, there is a Master riding a Dark Pegasus with a Sword of Might, Dawnstone, Enchanted Shield, Sealed Dragon Cloak, Heavy Armor. So he's got a 1-up rerollable save, and he's strength 5, and he's on that Pegasus, so he's pretty mobile. A good troubleshooter, be able to do what I need to do, and especially he's got magic attacks, which I need oh so desperately in this matchup. In my center lines here, this is my meat and potatoes in my army. There is 40 executioners with a full command, and my BSB is tucked in the corner there. He has heavy armor and a sea dragon cloak, so not too defensible, but I didn't have too many points left over for a hero here, so he's just kind of an afterthought. To the right of that, there is a Hydra, which well, you can obviously see by this picture there's 2 Hydras, and this is my thought behind a Hydra. Because of the giant nerf they got, they also got a slight point reduction, so their points is not as much as they used to be, and I look at them as a different role, as in a take-all monster. I look at them more as a chariot-esque role or a support unit. I would not ever expect one of these Hydras ever to go into a unit alone and actually do anything, but when they combi charged with a unit with ranks and banners, hence in the middle, you'll see there is 40 Corsairs, forming the majority of my core with the standard of discipline. Also not my first choice in core, having reviewed the book more and more, but I do have the models, and it is a solid block, so this will be stubborn leadership 9 for a long time, and they just pray they get some magical buffs on them. It's pretty much, and with 2 Hydras on each flank, potentially, could do some damage here. To the right of that unit, there's a level 4 Rocking Shadow. She also has a Dispel Scroll. So these spells I'm going to need to combat my Corsairs here. So for spells, I rolled up Miasma, Pit of Shades, Mind Razor, and the Pendulum. The Panera Pendulum, which is one of my least favorite spells in Shadow, second only to Steed of Shadows. So the spell set I'm not overly enchanted with. I do like Miasma, but I can always get it. I'm guaranteed to get it. It's an awesome spell. And the only other spell I really like here is the Mind Razor, because I will need that on my Corsairs if they want to be combat effective. I'm really bummed that I didn't get Enfeebling Foe with a Withering. I love having those remains in play spells, but I got to do with what I rolled. So, and she is in a unit of 12 crossbowmen. To the right of that unit, there is a second Master on a Dark Pegasus. He's rocking a halberd, heavy armor, sea dragon cloak, dragon helm, Luckstone, and Crown of Command. So this stubborn little bugger has a 2-up save with 1 reroll, but he is also Strength 5 with his halberd. So some Strength 5 Pegasus Masters in this list here. And then in front of him, there's 5 more Doomfire Warlocks rounding out my forces. So turn 1, the skeletons here, they reform to form this big bridge here because he doesn't want my fast cav to get around his flank and threaten his magic caster. And I will note his level 1 Vampire Lord does have Invocation of Nihek. I forgot to put it down there. However, his zombies march forward because since his compact little forces here are all within 12 inches of a general, so his whole entire army just moves forward like so in a cohesive unit. And in the magic phase, he casts Raise Dead to form a speed bump in the middle of the board here. He was out of range for Curse of the Years, and I dispelled his magic dance, so he didn't get to get his extra movement there. So in Dark Elves turn 1, I take my Pegasus Master with the magic weapon, and I fly him up the side here to threaten the flanks. I'm not sure how he'd face off against a unit of Khan Wraiths. However, if I can get in the flank, I do like that position. So he moves up here. And the Doomfire Warlocks also move up to get in a position to hopefully try and cast a Doom Bolt to shred some of those Khan Wraiths. And my other Pegmaster flies behind the building, ready to leap over it and get in a good position to threaten his Wizard next turn. There's not much you can do about it, other than keep the Terrorgeist back to potentially scream his brains out. And the other Doomfire Warlocks make a turn around the building here, since they don't want to get caught in that skeleton net. And then the center of my forces stay put. I have a ranged advantage, so I plan on exposing it. And I'm also behind a wall right now, so that always helps, just in case he gets some kind of long bomb charge in. In the magic phase, I do sneak off miasma. I rolled horribly low, so I didn't have enough dice to really throw out a Doom Bolt. So I did get off a miasma here, and I took 3 movement off the Hex Wraiths, so they won't be able to navigate where they want to on the board. And in the shooting phase, I went and clipped off 2 of these ghouls with some crossbows. So it goes to Undead turn 2 as ghouls march forward to the side of the building. As skeletons reform and move up a bit to get into the building next turn to get to the other side. His zombie unit scuttles forward a bit, and his Hex Wraiths move up their reduced movement, his Khan Wraiths in tow, along with his general's unit and the zombie bunker in back. And his Terrorgeist finally makes his fly move over outside of my front arcs of all my units to stay out of charge range, and he gets ready to scream off this bolt thrower. In the magic phase, he throws a couple dice, not too many. He just wanted to get his 2 zombies back, raise some more 2 ghouls back, raise some more zombies in the back, but he ends up miscasting, and he rolls a 11 or a 12 on the miscast, and he loses 2 rigid levels, so he loses Invocation, and he loses a second spell. I don't remember which one it was, but I know he had Curse of the Years left and Raise Dead, I believe. So that's good that his magic's reduced. So now my level 4 should have some sort of magic superiority moving forward. And the Terrorgeist promptly screams off like some bad Holland Hotes the brains of these Dark Elf Repeater Bolt Thrower crew. So much for the Bolt Thrower. My turn 2, I am perplexed as to what to do with these Khan Wraiths against my Peg hero here. I don't want to lose him this early on the game. Now that I know that his level 4 is now a level 2, I don't really need to rush the unit with all of my Peg heroes, so I use this one to harry the flanks here, and I get the Doomfire Warlocks to hopefully get enough dice this turn to magic these guys off the board. Because if I can get a Doom Bolt off, I should be able to shred the majority of that unit and run to them combat ineffective. So that was my thought process behind not committing the Pegmaster this early on. And I reform my Great Weapon Executioners here for one reason. Majority, there's the Hex Race there. I don't want them to come to my front. I would be hoarded, but none of those hoarded attacks make any difference as I can't hurt him. So he'd get a charge. He'd probably kill 2 or 3 of my guys. I might be able to win on ranks and banners. I should be able to, but if I don't, I'm in serious trouble. I don't want to break and run to a couple of hex wraiths here. Granted, I do have the BSB, but he doesn't have a magic weapon. So for whatever reason, I decided to reform here just in case he decides to take him in the front. Well, now he won't want to take him in the front because of all the ranks. But before, it could be a teasing option for him, or tempting option. So I nullify that option whatsoever by going ranks. And over here, my sorcerer moves out of the way. She moves out of the crossbow unit just in case he gets some kind of long bomb charge off with his ghouls or even his zombies in front. I don't want him picking off my sorcerer. She has no magic physical defense. She doesn't have a ward or anything. So to err on the side of the caution, I just move her out of the unit. My Pegmaster flies over the building and parks himself ready to charge the Necromancer and get him out of the game. And in the magic phase, I managed to get off a boosted miasma on his Graveguard unit with his General and his Wit King and all that good stuff. So now I don't have to worry about them really going anywhere since they're going to be movement 1. I don't have to worry about any charges. I can keep them out of the game for one more turn while I try and pick off his other elements of his army here. In the shooting phase, my crossbows open up and kill 3 more ghouls. So we'll go to Undead turn 3. His Terrorgeist turns around and flappies over here to the side of my Executioners. Now they are facing forward here. I know I didn't want to move all the models, so the front rank's facing forward and everybody else is still facing to the side pretty much. So just to avoid confusion here, they are facing forward in bus formation. His Hex Wraiths maneuver over to get ready to ethereal all the way through my entire army and cause some strength 5 hits, and his Con Wraiths move up to do a charge next turn. And since his general only has movement 1, he moves up a few inches. His bunker behind moves up a few inches, and his ghouls are not in a favorable charge range, so he just hunkers up a little forward to get a nice charge range for next turn. His skeletons move into the building to get ready to pop out the other side and threaten my sorceress. In this picture here, his Terrorgeist screams some horrible Katie Lang music into the ears of the Executioners and bursts a few of their brains, but not too bad all in all. That takes us to Dark Elves turn 3. I just reformed my Doomfire Warlocks here so they could possibly get a Doombolt off onto his ghouls here. Now, note that last turn I rolled horribly low in the Winds of Magic and I wasn't able to Doombolt any of his ethereal units once again. So, seeing at this point there's no ethereal units on this side of the board I can really go after at this point. So I just reform here so the skeletons can't come out and come out of the building and have a favorable charge against my crossbow and my general's unit. And in the center here, a whole bunch of wonky, not so good stuff happens. With these ghouls and with these zombies in front of my Corsairs, I really have no choice. I have to go into them at some point. So I do a charge with the Corsairs into the middle, and I take both my Hydras and try and charge into the ghouls. I think I needed like a 7 with the one on the far left, and like a 7 with a 1 next to the Sorcerer. I fail it with one, I make it with the other one. Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, well, it's pretty much a bad thing. You'll find out why. So the Corsairs go into the 7 zombies in front of me. One Hydra goes into the ghouls. The other one fails a charge and is stuck in front. My Peg Captain also makes it into the zombie bunker and is ready to chow down on some Necromancer meat. And over on this side, I finally, seeing the Executioners in a really bad position here, decided to commit the Peg Master into the back of the Con Wraiths. Plus charge, plus 2. For the rear and a magic weapon, I should be able to delete most of this unit and with not too many attacks returning to me. Also here, the Doomfire Warlocks move up to hopefully, cross my fingers, finally get a Doombolt off on the Hex Wraiths to stop them from marching through my lines. And I do just that in the magic phase. I throw 6 dice at it, and I don't do the boosted version because I don't claim it, although had I thought about it, I would have done the boosted. But I didn't say it, so I didn't do it. So I was managed to take off 3 of the Hex Wraiths with a Doombolt, which is good because it's a lot less scary now. And then I also tried to get another boosted miasma off on these Graveguard here, and I roll incredibly high, and he just Dispel Scrolls it because he wants to be able to use this unit in the next turn. In the combat here, the Corsairs are victorious over the 7 zombies with no casualties in return. And over here in the zombie bunker, I allocate all the hero's attacks onto the necromancer, and I fell him. And the Pegasus kicks over a few zombies. I end up winning the combat. We charge and a flank and some wounds. He crumbles 3. So that Pegmaster's stuck in that unit there. And then in this horrible display of debauchery, the Hydra is initiative 2. These ghouls are initiative 3. He goes first. He does 8 wounds to me, and I will get a 4-up armor save, and I have 5 wounds. I fail enough, the Hydra just dies outright. Doesn't even get to swing. Doesn't get to even like sip on a Slurpee or anything. It just straight over keels over. This Hydra just got completely pwned by a bunch of ghouls, which is just, I expected probably to live. If I had made on averages enough of the 4+ armor saves, I should have still been alive with 1 wound, but that just wasn't meant to be. I failed everything. In the combat over here, I do 3 wounds to the hex rate, to the con rates here. He does no wounds to me, and he crumbles a mighty 6, I believe, and he's down to 1 last con wraith on 1 wound, I believe here. But either way, my Peg Master did exactly what he needed to do when he decimated this ethereal unit with a magic weapon. That takes us to Undead, turn 4. It takes his hex race, and he goes through my executioners. The poor executioners take 2 casualties as they're being picked on. He takes his general's unit and throws it into the other Hydra to get it out of the way, and his ghouls go into my Corsairs for a lack of a better target. His skeletons muster their way outside the building, and since they don't have a good spot here, they have to end up on this side, farther away from my sorcerer. And since I'm fast cav, I'll just reform and move wherever I want freely. The Terrorgeist here goes and screams a horrible, horrible scream and just outright kills all 5 of the Doomfire Warlocks, which is not pretty. Doomfire Warlocks are really maneuverable. I have the potential to do a spell, and plus they're just pretty decent in combat and a 4+ ward. I expected a better showing, but apparently the utility is not there anymore since they all decide to die. In the combat over here, the Pegmaster continues to munch on some zombies, and they crumble a bit. And my other Pegmaster finishes off the last con wraith here and reforms to face the Terrorgeist. Now, I notice at this point, I don't have any of these armies going to be able to catch a Terrorgeist. This is during his turn, so I will be able to get a charge off. This is my one opportunity to lock down the Terrorgeist. I don't know how it will fare. I don't know if it's favoring him or the Pegmaster, but I know that I at least got to lock this thing down. If it wants to scream some Bon Jovi music and burst my brain at me, then so be it. But I have to make an attempt to subdue this thing. Otherwise, it's just this is my one chance to finally try and do something about the Terrorgeist. In the combat here, the Vampire Lord goes and single-handedly kills the Hydra. Big surprise. And he chooses to overrun, and he does not make it into my executioners, so he's stuck right there. And in the combat over here, his ghouls have an impressive showing and take down 8 of the Corsairs. Even with a 4+ armor, I wasn't able to save too many of them. And the Corsairs return their attacks and only kill 6 of the ghouls, so not very impressive at all. It's safe to say that these Corsairs suck. But they are superior in number and ranks and the standard discipline, so I am stubborn. I lose this combat, but I stick around, which is what they're meant to do. So my turn 4, I take the Pegmaster and I slam him into the Terrorgeist, for better or worse. There he is. I decide at this point that since I want to, know I'm going to have to take on this Vampire Lord's unit, I want to go for the most amount of attacks I can to decimate as much of the unit as I can. So I go and reform into Horde formation. Seeing the present danger with the skeletons possibly charging into my crossbowmen and the ghouls possibly winning a combat and overrunning, I take my sorcerer and I march her outside of line of sight here, and I just so I don't have to worry about her dying if the unit dies or gets in combat. And in the magic phase, I get off Mind Razor here on my Corsairs, so hopefully they will be able to do something as opposed to the usual nothing. Strength 8 on them is mighty impressive, 8 or 9. is mighty impressive, and with murderous prowess, this should be pretty effective, at least in the wounding portion, and I will get rerolls to hit. So what was once a paltry unit is now incredibly deadly. In the shooting phase, I managed to strip off 7 of these skeletons with some crossbow bolts. And in the combat here, I do a whopping 12 wounds to the ghoul unit. And I don't think he does any wounds in return to me. And he crumbles 14. And it leaves him with one last ghoul left, tying up my Corsair unit, which is not good. Had I been able to finish him off, it would have been a lot better. It stinks getting stuck in one more round of combat just for one lonely ghoul, but that's the way the numbers crunched out. The peg captain over here managed to fell 4 more of these zombies, and they crumble 4 in return. And over here, the peg master goes with his attacks. Now he needs 3s with a reroll, I believe, to hit, and then I think he needs 5s to wound this guy since he's strength 5 because of the Sword of Might, toughness 6 on the Terrorgeist. He manages to roll to wound, and he wounds twice. He fails both his regens. I do 2 wounds. He does nothing to me in return, so I do 2 wounds. I have a charge. He loses by 3. He crumbles 3. The Terrorgeist is on 1 wound. What an incredible turn. However, I do have to wither 1 scream during his turn if I want to stay alive. So turn 5 for the undead. He charges with the skeletons and my crossbowmen. I stand and shoot, and I take off 6 of them. And then he makes it. In the combat over here, I managed to go first, and I did the last wound to the Terrorgeist. So the Terrorgeist is finito. Now, I don't know if that's what should happen in this matchup, but it's what did happen, and I'm thankful for this Pegasus being Strength 5, this Pegasus Master being Strength 5, and he definitely outperformed this game. Taking on a Terrorgeist by himself is more than I could have asked for, especially withering that last scream. Granted, he is Leadership 9, and he did manage to do 5 wounds to the Terrorgeist previously, but you never know how the dice are going to roll when it comes to screaming. In the combat here, I did 4 more wounds to these zombies, and he crumbled to death. So that other Peg Master is finally free. And his mission to slay the Necromancer is complete. In the combat over here, I don't do any wounds to these skeleton knuckleheads over here, and he does 5 wounds to me. He breaks me, and I run through my Corsairs, and he tries to catch me, and he ends up slamming into the side of the Corsairs here. Now, what's horrible is he forgot at this point that they had Mind Razor up, so what seemed like a good idea is a horrible idea, especially since they're only still locked in combat by 1 ghoul. So we do the combat for this. 10 of the skeletons die to the Mind Razor Corsairs, and 1 of the ghouls just died. The last ghoul died. So because of all this hideous combat res, that unit completely pops, and his skeletons are out of the game, his ghouls are out of the game, and the Corsairs reform to face the rear of the Graveguard. If my executioners can hold against the Vampire Lord, then I can get a nice juicy rear charge off. However, this happens. His Vampire Lord goes first and kills 10 of the executioners by himself. Then I go and I allocate as many as I can to get a killing blow off on his Vampire Lord. If I can kill the Vampire Lord, then that's worth sacrificing this whole unit. However, the Vampire Lord was not meant to die since I fail horribly. The paltry amount of regular attacks I'm able to put on the unit, I only fell 8 of the Graveguard. I lose this combat horridly. The Graveguard killed 9 more executioners. He's got more ranks. He wins the combat. I just straight out break. He pursues me. I run off the table and am destroyed, and his pursuit ends him off here. My turn 5, my Doomfire Warlocks, I just move him up. I use the Peg Captain with the magical weapon to possibly charge his Hex Wraiths if I can get to him next turn. However, the Doomfire Warlocks beat him to the punch and Doombolt the Hex Wraiths off the board. And turn 6, he merely reforms his General's unit, and that is his last unit on the board. So the game ends like so. The Dark Elves with a scoring 1601, and the Vamp scoring 1110. So it was a victory to the Dark Elves. a bloody victory, but a victory nonetheless. So some side notes here. Wow. I knew the Hydra was bad, but I figured it was a semi-bargain for the points cost considering the points reduction it has. I consider it on par with maybe an expensive chariot. Of course, you can't really equate a gore beast into this equation, but like a chariot, an average chariot, and treat them as such, as a support unit, not so much a main fighting beast as it used to be. However, they didn't even get to swing in this game once. Maybe it was bad matchups, maybe it was just a failed charge, maybe it was a lot of things, but this was not an impressive showing for the Hydras in this game. So hopefully, moving forward, as I try and work out, the list a little more and get a feel for how this list I made works, then maybe they'll find a better role, because in this game they just straight out poop their pants. The Terrorgeist is an ultimate boo-boo maker. It is just such a nuisance. It just is. It is a hurdle if you don't have the right tools to take it out. And this list, I could try and Doom Bolt. I could do a lot of things, but there's so many other ethereal units that took precedence as far as requiring the Doom Bolt. At least I can hurt the Terrorgeist with physical weapons, but the problem is pinning it down. And luckily, the Pegasus Master was able to do that with a series of luck and some good combat rolls. And, being very fond of the vampires and the undead, I love the Vampire Lord. And against soft, fleshy, lightly armored targets, a Vampire Lord is the king of the grinding. And in this game, he got the matchup he wanted. He avoided killing blow, and he got rewarded with just completely decimating, 500 plus point unit. And that's what a Vampire Lord can do in the right situation. So great showing for the Vampire Lord. I feared him the whole game, and there's nothing I can really do. I stalled him as long as I could. Luckily, my stalling tactics allowed him only to absorb one unit this game as opposed to multiple units. So, and also his level 4 undead magic, when you start being able to bubble out some of those spells, I knew that he had to die. The lack of mobility that can be present in an undead army is usually their greatest weakness. And having those Peg Masters and some Doomfire Warlocks with a little speed on the flanks gave me a nice and prime opportunity to isolate and take him out of the game, which was my plan from the beginning. Those Peg Masters were solely there to go after his Magic Caster and expunge him from this world, and mission accomplished. And that brings me to the last one, the Doomfire utility. Man, if you have some extra power dice, or any extra power dice, if you need to take out some kind of ethereal unit, Doomfire is awesome. I love this unit. I love the utility of it. It can do a whole series of things, from war machine hunting. They're survivable. They're casters. They channel. They're just an amazing unit that I think should be present on every Dark Elf battlefield. So, highly impressed with them, despite the fact they don't like Terrorgeist, but who really does? There's nothing you can do about a good Terrorgeist scream. Unfortunate that one of them had to fall to it, but great for picking off, remnants of units and taking out small chaff units. I love that unit, and I look forward to getting some more games in. So this is my first Dark Elf game with my initial list. Over time, I plan on making tweaks and adding and switching out some units. I'm very hesitant to change much off of one battle, but I think my core definitely needs some reworking. Although I do like having the block of Corsairs as some sort of anvil. However, without Mind Razor or some kind of buff to their strength or debuff to the enemy's toughness, I find I just would rather have Dark Riders or some more crossbowmen or something of the sort. But, it'll be an exercise in just seeing how it works against other matchups and take it from there. So, victory to the Dark Elves. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I'll see you next time.